7 pails, 9
Good evening. My name is Jason Parrott. I'm with Tri-States Public Radio. I was asked to serve as a moderator tonight for the, I guess we're called the town hall meeting that Optimae is holding here. It's going to be a pretty basic and simple approach to this. Bill Dodds is the president of Optimae. He's going to start off with a statement about the company, explaining kind of what they do, also kind of explaining why they decided to hold this meeting tonight. And then at that point, where they are willing to accept questions from the audience. There's no microphone, so if you can't hear, I'm going to recommend moving up a little bit. And once the questions begin, the only thing that they ask and everything is to just be civil with your questions, just be respectful of everybody else. And they will answer questions throughout the night. They handed me some questions that were submitted ahead of time by a resident, so if there's a lull in questions, I can go to some of these. But if you guys have actual questions during the discussion, just feel free to keep them going. What I'll kind of do is just hang out over here and point in the general direction of if somebody just raises their hand. If you can just raise your hand, I'll point at you. That way we don't have a bunch of people yelling out questions at the same time. And that's about it with that. Go ahead.
Thanks. Well, thank you all for coming tonight. We're happy to host this town hall, or whatever you want to call it, church hall. We decided after some discussions with the city, when folks showed up to a city council meeting with some concerns about a new site that we're planning on opening in town, that it would be best just to meet with whoever the interested parties were. We'd like about 15 minutes to tell you a little bit about us and what our values are and how we do things. We wanted to avoid trying to market you, so please don't think we're doing that, but we did want to communicate a little bit. And that may answer some of your questions. And then I'll sit down and turn it over to you guys, and the panel up here will answer any questions you have to the best of our ability, and those that we don't have an answer to today, we'll take down, put on a parking lot, and get back to you with the specific answer if you stump the band. So let me just tell you who's here with me. Angie Torres, who's our regional director. Sheena Poorman, who's our director of communications. Susan Martin, who's our chief operating officer for services. James Mays, GYM Mays, who's our COO for business services, and Cheryl Gill, who's our COO for Central Iowa Services. So the four of us are kind of a senior management operations team. Sheena's a department head, and Angie is responsible for all the services in this region. So with that, let me just kind of give you an overview. So Optimae. We are a private employee-owned corporation. About 50 of our senior managers and mid-level leaders own stock in Optimae. So we're not as employee-owned as Hy-Vee, but we're not a big mega corporation. We provide services in somewhere around a little over a third of the counties in the state of Iowa, mostly in southeast Iowa, central Iowa, south central Iowa, and eastern Iowa. So all the way from Cedar Rapids to Muscatine to here, over to Osceola and up to Des Moines and Ames and that region. So geographically about a third of the state. We have about 1,500 employees. We provide services to over 5,000 individuals every year. We provide a wide range of services to those folks. We provide services, community services to individuals who have disabilities, that is serious mental illness, intellectual disabilities, brain injuries. We also provide home health services to that population, as well as to the regular frail elderly home health population. We provide behavioral health services, again, to the individuals that we serve who have disabilities, and also just counseling and medication management to folks who need that service in their community. We also run a very small number of residential programs, including one of the state's only 3 nursing facilities for persons with mental illness. So to kind of give you an idea of the scope of the services in terms of what we do and where we do it. As I mentioned to you, we are employee-owned. And it's important for us to always, we communicate this to our employees, we communicate this to the communities that we serve when we meet with officials. We're a bit of a different kind of company. So we're not publicly traded, so it's not the goal of our board of directors to maximize our profit. It is the goal of our board of directors and our stockholders to first do good, and that means doing the right thing for and by our customers and our employees and the communities that we provide services in. All three of those are equally important to us. Secondly, we like to have fun, and that means structuring the workplace so that even in a difficult environment, our employees can enjoy their work, look forward to coming to work, feel fulfilled by their work, and also we do joke around a lot. So that we hope differentiates itself a bit. And what we say is, instead of trying to maximize profits for stockholders, if we do good and we have fun and we do it efficiently and effectively enough, we'll make enough money for what we need to do. And you can talk to any one of our employees. I give this speech to, I don't know, 1,500 people in the last year. I mean, we mean that sincerely. So when we come to your community and provide services, we are not here to suck money out of the community. We are here to provide services to the people in your community that need it, and hopefully to give something back to the citizens of the community. And any time that doesn't happen, we want to know about it because we want to correct it. A little bit about our values, although you'll probably hear other people talk about them tonight. We live very strongly by our values. We talk about them daily. We also talk about our brand promise, which is to be at the side and on the side of our customers and our employees and our communities. And you'll hear many, many, many difficult conversations every day around our company where at some point somebody will say, we can't do that because we wouldn't be on their side. We can't treat that employee that way because we wouldn't be at their side. We take those very seriously. So when you receive services from Optimae, you're taken care of as if you were our family. Because when we rebranded ourselves about 7 years ago, we picked the name Optimae, which is Latin for as best one can. And the sort of tagline that goes along with that as we develop the brand is, we want to provide services that we would be proud to provide to our family members should they need them. And quite frankly, in many cases they do. So that's a little overview of what Optimae is, what Optimae does, how we approach it. Now let me talk just a little bit about this particular site. So there's been a little bit of confusion and things changed fairly rapidly in the policy world. At some point in time, some people were saying this was a group home. Okay, so I got to tell you, you're woefully old-fashioned if you're still using the term group home. So group homes are a thing of the past. There's various things that have replaced it. But in this case, this is a site. The site itself is not licensed. It's a single-family rental, so it has to meet the rental codes of whatever jurisdiction they're in. We have about, do you recall how many we have? About a couple hundred, 250 of these sites around various communities. So they all have to meet the rental codes of the communities they're in for single-family rental, so they're inspected by the city. And then our services that we provide to individuals who reside in those sites are accredited by the state. So the house itself is not accredited as a healthcare facility. The services that we provide are accredited as home and community-based services. So that's a development that's happened over the past 20 years fairly slowly, and the idea behind that is to integrate individuals with disabilities fully into the community so that they're not living in group homes, they're not living in residential care facilities, they're living in neighborhoods where other families live. One of the things that we do, because we work with people, a fair number of people who have fairly significant disabilities, is we find that a lot of them have barriers to tenancy. Probably about 3/4 of the people that we work with rent their own apartment own their own home, whatever. But about a fourth of them have had trouble doing that. First of all, they're fairly chronically poor because they've been on disability for a long time. Secondly, they've probably had some bad experiences as tenants. So many landlords won't rent safe, affordable housing to them. So we step in to kind of support their tenancy. We find landlords who are willing to work with us, and we rent the property and then turn around and sublease it to our customers. We don't make money on that sublease. In fact, we usually lose a little bit of money on that sublease. But that way, they're able to live in a safe environment, have a stable home, and eventually, hopefully, learn how to be better tenants so that someday they can move out and rent an apartment from somebody. So that's kind of the nature of this living environment. A couple of questions, and we'll touch on these a lot later. A couple of general questions about our services. So services, were a lot of questions about who lives where, what level of service do they get, so on and so forth. Well, just a couple of general background pieces. So staffing is always based on the needs of the customer. Each customer has an interdisciplinary team that consists of staff from Optimae and other community staff from their IHH worker or a case manager. And so that team always decides what services the individual should receive. And so different people receive different levels of services over time. Some of them go up, some of them go down. We can talk about some of the details of that. And then the other kind of big service-related question was, are services 24-hour? Well, what I can say is 24-hour services are available to anyone that we provide services to. Not all people we provide services to receive 24-hour services on a regular basis. Some do, some don't. Some live in houses where they don't receive 24-hour services per se, but there is an overnight staff there. Some live in houses where there are no overnight staff, but they always have access to an on-call person who can call in someone to physically come there if they need to. So a couple of the big service questions you asked, there's kind of an overview. So at this point, I've accomplished what I wanted to. I probably haven't answered very many of your questions, and we've certainly got a long list. But just based on what I said, if you have questions about that, or just questions that you walked in the door with, I think the first thing we'd like to do is just address those. And then, if after that, after we're done, we'll hang around for a while. So if there's questions you'd like to ask us that you don't want to stand up in the middle of the crowd and ask, we're good with that too.
Yeah, Dave, you got your hand up first. Go ahead.
My name is Dave Barrett. Sally and I live at 1107 Grand Avenue. The neighborhood gossip is that you have purchased the home, or the landlord who you're going to rent from has purchased the home. And my question is that true? And then if it is, what is your anticipated start date for residents at the home?
Sure. So I'll ask Angie to start with has it been purchased, because she would know that.
Yes, the house has been purchased, and the closing date, from what I understand, will be close to the middle of June. And as soon as the house is ready for someone to move into, we will be moving into it.
So
Does that answer your question?
probably sometime in August, if everything.
Possibly even July. There's
Okay.
not a lot that has to be done there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm Kathy Roberts from Montrose, but I'm a payee for Lee County, and have great respect for the people that work in the mental health industry here. You have a lot of really good, hard-working employees.
Thank you.
Of course, like any job, you got some levels.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think that a lot of the turmoil about this came because we've all been horrified by the closing of MHI and the lack of psychiatrists and what this is doing in the state of Iowa. And there's not much we can do about that except vote differently and lobby like hell. But I think that's where a lot of the fear comes in. And I know some of my clients I'd love to have as neighbors, and some not so much. But if you have good staff that are trained and paid well, so they like to come to work, goodness of your heart doesn't pay the bills.
No.
But if you take care of your staff, they will take care of your people. And I think I've met some really wonderful staff.
Good.
And years ago, my son went to get a job between college years at one of the companies that's no longer in business. His training consisted of reading, like for 2 hours at a time, the narratives of the clients. And then he was put in a house. It's like, what in the world? That's not training. So
No.
I think, maybe
Yeah.
you could address what you do for that.
I can address that.
Yep, go right ahead.
So in the region here, Optimae really, really prides themselves on training. And we are working on a daily basis to upgrade our training, our modules, anything that we can do to get the information to staff that we need to get to them. And at this time, when a staff person begins, they have several weeks of modules that they go through of different trainings. They go full days, they go part days, they go full days, then they go out and they meet people, and then they come back in their training. And their training is very extensive, and it goes on for as long as they're employed with Optimae. We really pride ourselves on really working on the training. We train on diagnosis. We have our mental health people who work in the mental health part of our programs do trainings on diagnosis and how to work with individuals with specific diagnoses. And we have home health, where home health is very, very involved with our programs. And they're in the homes and they're helping with the medications. They're helping staff to notice things if somebody has seizures. Sometimes the home health nurses are in there on a daily basis, sometimes on a weekly basis. They're continually educating the staff on that. So yes, the training continues to get better with time. We are always working on what can we do better to help our staff get the education that they need to get, which is one of our core values, is education.
And not only do we train them on the broad brush, we also do very specific customer service training, which doesn't mean you just sit down and read the chart. It means you really go into this person's history, and these are their symptoms, and when they have symptoms, this is the way they would like to be supported during that period of time. And then, we come back around and check in with our customers and say, how is that going with those staff members? So I appreciate the question. It is, training is always something that we strive to continue to make better.
Go over here, then we'll go to here.
My name's Steve Bryant. I'm blessed to have 2 disabled children of my own. They both will be graduating from school this next year. And for about 15 years ago, my father got involved with working for Bridgeway organization just so that he could make sure that people like them were being taken care of properly. And he's been in the field for 15 years. My wife just started in February for Optimae, and she has had constant training to make sure that these people are being watched, cared for, and taken care of properly. It's a wonderful organization. But on a side note, I just want to say, these people didn't choose to be born like this, and it's our job as a community to take care of them. And not to say, oh, I'm worried about them living next to me because they might, be loud. They might be. These people didn't choose to be born like this. And when I'm dead and gone, I want to know that my town is taking care of my children and not turning their backs on them. Amen. Amen.
I'm Phil Carapresso. 2 questions. One, what are the criteria or requirements to be employed as a caregiver in the home? And 2, where are the residents coming from? Are the homes exclusively for Keokuk, exclusively for Lee County, or could these customers, clients, come from a longer distance away?
You want to tackle the first one, Susan?
Yeah, sure. So many of our site homes, the staff, we focus a lot. Absolutely. I'm really good at being loud, so we got this covered. Many of our site homes staff, when they do have those 24-hour shifts, we focus on training. Because the requirement to be able to get a job as a direct service professional is a high school diploma or a GED. That's that
And
entry.
background checks.
And background checks, yes, thank
Right,
you. And
to
we
pass
do,
the background checks.
we do very extensive background checks on everybody that comes to work at Optimae to make sure that that background is clear. That's that first question. Does that
And
answer-
to just kind of dovetail on that, that is the minimal requirement, but also we have people that have 4-year degrees plus that are working as direct care professionals. So it depends on who is available in the community, who's interested in the opportunity that we have to offer that we think would be a good match for us as well.
And one of-
Optimae then does not hold itself to a higher standard. You don't require a college degree or expertise in healthcare, or someone who has experience in mental illness. They need to have a GED or a driver's license. And I take that from your website.
Right.
Yes.
So, but one of the things, sir, that we believe in, and the folks that are here from Optimae have heard me say this probably a million times over, the most important people at Optimae are our DSPs, because they are living our mission with the people we're here to support. So yes, we do take time to train them, and we do believe in them, and we do invest in them because they are the most important people at Optimae.
They're actually the most important people to our country, the direct service professionals in all areas of healthcare, not only mental health, but all areas of healthcare. They're 80% of our employees. They're the people taking care of us. They're where the rubber meets the road.
Right, which is what we say every time we meet with them. At the end of every meeting, we say, if you take nothing from this meeting, please know that we understand that you are where the rubber meets the road. You are the people who do the work. And you know, there's plenty of research out there that indicates that specific training in providing community-based services for persons with disabilities is quite adequately provided by companies if they put their mind to it. And that's what keeps employees engaged. We take this very seriously because we know that's how we're going to get and keep good employees. And you know, the fact that somebody has a college degree in history does not make them a better employee for us. Which is one of the college degrees I have.
Okay.
And
Maybe we'll do that. If you're going to talk, go ahead and stand up to try to see.
Sure. And
With
you
no
had
microphone to try to project. And there was a second part of the
right.
question.
There was a second part.
The second part was the origin of the people who will be living in the homes in Keokuk.
So I'm going to
We're
let.
talking about taking care of our community.
I think what you had also asked is there homes in other areas? Did you ask that?
No,
Okay,
no,
just
no,
about this one.
taking referrals.
Okay, so we get referrals from everywhere. They come from, I have 2 people in the back that are on my assessment team, and we go and do assessments from everywhere around Iowa. So they could come from anywhere.
So not necessarily that focused on Keokuk or Lee County.
Not necessarily focused on that, but some of the individuals who have already been living here and being served in other areas are from Keokuk.
They will be in the home.
They will be in certain homes. I can't say that they'll be in that one, but yes.
Do you strive to do that?
So
I didn't
sure.
hear you,
So
I'm sorry.
yeah.
Do
Can
you
I?
strive to do that?
Yes.
Do you strive to
So
return
yes,
some
the
of your own?
idea behind
Absolutely.
is that we want to allow people to live in the communities of their choice. Now, in most cases, that's the community where they're from, and that's the community they would prefer to live in. So that's the community we would prefer to live in. However, sometimes someone says, you know, I want to get away from there. I've got bad friends, bad influences. I need a fresh start. We'll help people do that too. So, but generally speaking, consumer choice drives almost everything that we do, and most people choose to live where their friends and relatives and family are. So certainly I would expect, and I don't know how many sites we're going to end up with here in Keokuk, but I would expect the 3/4 of the people to be either people who grew up here or people who have lived here previous to coming into service with us.
We've got one here, then we're going to go to one back there.
I recently discovered that NBC listed Keokuk as the poorest city in Iowa and the 14th poorest city in all the United States of America. So my question is an economic question. How many jobs do you anticipate this to this to bring into Keokuk, and how much influx of cash or capital would it be bringing in to the businesses of Keokuk? In other words, helping Keokuk's economy.
How many people will, so of the new sites that we're opening, how many people will we be employing?
We went from employing about 12, I believe, I don't have the exact numbers, I'm sorry, but I'm real close, about 12 DSPs in Keokuk, and we are up to about 55, so that's quite a change, not even in a year. We would hope that businesses would be able to, you know, flourish from that, because we're bringing, you know, a lot of revenue into the area from that. And we're hoping to hopefully someday do some type of a business.
Yeah, that gives me a chance to, as long as we're talking about economic impact. So one of the things we do that's a bit unusual, at least for Iowa, is that we provide employment services a different way than most providers. Instead of trying to identify community businesses where folks can go work with a little bit of support, which we found doesn't work very well, especially for some of the folks that we work with, we have started, because we know how to run businesses, we have started a number of small businesses. And we have an advantage with these small businesses because we don't have to make money. All we have to do is break even. And then we use those businesses to provide job training and support to customers that we serve otherwise, and occasionally someone that another provider serves. And with the hope, one of two hopes. One, that this will provide them with the experience and the background to go get a job in a community business, because they aren't working for some kind of program. They're working for Brick Street Bakery. They're working for Plain Talk Books and Coffee. They're working for Raccoon Forks Farm. It's a real business that they can put on their resume. And then if they're an individual that really their level of disability is such that that's just not in the cards for them, they can have long-term part-time employment in those businesses. And we've successfully made baristas out of some people with fairly significant levels of disability, and then they have a valued role in the community. So now they're no longer a mental patient. They identify themselves as a barista or a waiter or a farmer, which is part of what we're trying to do, is to help people turn their mindset around into, I'm not a broken person, I'm a person who needs some help. So we would hope, I've been driving around your town, and sometimes I scare my partners, but I would hope within the next, say, 18 months or so, that we would be able to open one of those micro businesses here in Keokuk, which would further economic development. It would fill a storefront, it would put some people to work, it would provide another good or service to the citizens of the county and the town. So hopefully we'll be able to do that in the next 18 months.
There's a lot of very unique buildings. Seriously, we're looking at a lot of them. So.
Did you have a question?
I have a white beard, therefore I have some I'm not hearing, and I came for information. I'm wondering if we can reorganize the room so that we can hear back here. After some of these people, I'm not the only devil.
Anybody that can't hear can work from the hall.
I'm sitting right here and I can't hear.
There's chairs right up
We'll do better.
If you can't hear us, you can just move forward and.
We have 4 chairs over here.
Okay, we'll do better. Can you hear that? Can you hear me now?
I'm here for information. I'm supporting what they are doing. I'm just trying to see the changes that have been made since my son was an active part of this type of mental health work. And I would like to go away and have a discussion with him and have information that I can say, this is what's happening in your hometown right now. Is there a way we can reorganize? I'm a 5th grade teacher, and I can do it, but...
Bill? That's way, but long time ago when I was a junior high principal. And
you don't need a table, you can move your chairs for them.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Come on up. Come on up.
Mark, there's chairs over here.
Yeah, if you
Bring
want to
your
take
chairs up here if you'd
like.
Yeah, if you want to take a bit and you can't hear, feel free to, there's chairs all up here, you can move closer.
I wish we were allowed more
Thank you.
Come on up.
Come on up, please.
We're really nice. We don't bite. We don't, it's okay.
Last time we did
And
this,
we'll
we had a
stand
guitar
up
and a
when we
microphone.
talk.
That's right, we did.
We have a microphone?
All right, we'll go right here. As we're doing a little rearranging, we'll go right here to greet you.
I'll try to talk loud. My name's Brian Sage. I have a daughter that's got some pretty significant impairments, and I've been talking with a number of people in Grand, and we're trying to calm this thing down and make it reasonable. I'm kind of tying together a couple of questions over here. One of the questions is, do you guys have affiliations with service providers out of state? I think one of our fears is that we have a low cost of living here because this is a poverty level town.
That's a good
And,
point.
Yeah.
and that we're going to be bringing in or warehousing people
Sure.
from more expensive places where, you guys would obviously profit if they were, it cost more to house
ready to
people.
get myself
and
in
save
Iowa
more
Speech
than
now?
it does here.
Sure.
You have to stand up.
I've got a couple
Yeah,
questions.
yeah.
I'll throw them at you guys, and then probably throughout I'll have some more. The other is we're talking about the high school education, the thing. And it is my assumption, and I could be wrong, but I understand that it's not necessarily a high-paying job, and that you're not going to get a ton of people with 6-year degrees or something doing this kind of casework. But it would be my assumption that they would be overseen by somebody with a high-level education. And one of the things with my daughter is if we're going to get things in place for her through the state, they have to be statistically supported, interventions in things like the behavior intervention plan, ABA and whatnot.
Evidence-based,
And number one, is that what you guys are using? And number two, is there some accountability? Is there somebody that says that yes, because in the schools and in the interventions that we're using currently, there is some oversight. They're saying that this has to fulfill these requirements and that the school is fulfilling these requirements. Is there some oversight for you guys saying that that is what's taking place here?
We take the first one? Okay, so the first question is, would we have affiliations with people and see this as a cheap place to house people and so on and so forth? And the unequivocal answer to that is absolutely not. So I've avoided giving I'm a fifth-generation Iowan speech up to this point, but I think I will. I am a fifth-generation Iowan. My great-great-grandparents settled north of Danville in Des Moines County in 1835, and my family has slowly been moving up the river valley ever since. Two of my sons work for the company, and they're sixth-generation Iowans. We take serving our communities, each and every one of them, very seriously. We are cheerleaders for the state of Iowa and for local Iowa communities. So we have absolutely no interest in dumping people on this community or any other community. We want to support your community and and in essence, it is our community. So absolutely not to the bringing people in from out of state or anything like that.
So I'll take his other question, and that is there a plan? Is there somebody overseeing those services? And yes, there is. So we have a couple of different levels of individuals that help support our site homes. So we have DSPs that work in the site home. Then they have a team lead that is in and out of that home every day, most days of the week. Then we have a service coordinator, and that service coordinator is your degree level person. And that person sits down with our customer, with their family, with their case manager, their IHH worker. Oftentimes someone from an MCO has some input into that as well, which is our Medicaid partners, to develop a plan of what does this particular person need and how can we provide that to them in the best possible way. And yes, we do a lot of evidence-based practices. Now, those practices are very much individualized. An assessment is done with that interdisciplinary team with each customer. So it's individualized for that customer. And then that service coordinator is the one that makes sure that we are working on the goals and the interventions that are in that plan. So yes, absolutely, there is somebody that oversees all of that. And Optimae has to be accountable to the state of Iowa and to our Medicaid partners, the MCOs, to make sure that yes, indeed, this is what we're doing. Does that help answer your question?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm yelling at you. I just want to make sure people are back in here.
There's also another level
We're
there.
just too darn polite.
There's a program director that actually then supervises the service coordinator. So there's another level as well.
And Angie, I have a quick question. I just want to jump in with, is there a waiting list, and then we'll go here and back there. Is there a waiting list right now for people to get into these properties? Like, is there a list here in Southeast Iowa to get in?
We do not have a waiting list,
Okay.
no.
Gentleman right over here, and then we'll go to the back corner.
My name's Philip Chancellor, and I live across the street from where our new home is going to be. I have several questions. We submitted a bunch of questions for the town hall meeting. Could we go through those one at a time, and that might...
Well, that's what I was going to say. We had talked about that earlier, if we wanted to let people ask questions, or if the audience would prefer to go, would you prefer to just go through this list one by one, or you want to keep asking?
As long as we don't get any health information, private health information.
We got one back here.
Was fear of losing property value. Did you say that someone bought the house, that you will be leasing it for your customers?
Correct, yes.
To me, that says somebody's going to be looking out for that property and its value, as opposed to somebody having the money to buy it and then not maintaining it.
I'd like to say, remember our tagline? We want it to be just as good as what we would want to live in. So we take pride in where the customers live.
I guess I would actually ask Optimae, it's your meeting.
Yeah.
Do you want to run through these questions that were provided, or do you want to just keep going with the format we're going?
Well, I'd like to.
Let's just do it.
Just keep going as we've been?
Go through the questions. They want to go through them?
Yeah, let's.
So if we want to
Could we take a couple? Could we take? So we've got a couple people have had their hands up. Could we take a couple more
Let's go back
questions,
here,
and then we'll
since we haven't
go
asked
to the
one yet.
list.
Little louder, sir.
I have quite a few questions and comments, but right now, this gentleman over here has requested to go through these questions, and I'm all in favor of that. I don't have access to a computer, and I can't go on Facebook to read them, and I don't count on our paper to print a whole sheet out for the public to see all these questions, and no one will give answers. I'd like to do it here. This is a town hall meeting, and I highly recommend this gentleman.
I'd like to know the origin of the question before we make that decision.
I have a question before.
I guess, Bill,
Well, this gentleman's had his hand up for quite a while.
Sir, I understand the home was purchased by Doug Ziegler. Is that
Sure,
correct?
yes.
And is Optimae leasing the property from Doug Ziegler?
Yes.
Correct. Yes.
So the people that are living there are not involved in the lease process?
They have a sublease with us. We lease individually to each of them. So we have a master lease for the property. We pay Mr. Ziegler a monthly fee and agree to pay the utilities. And then we have a lease, we have a service agreement with each of our customers, but we also have a lease, which has been approved by God, King, and Country. And we charge each of the individuals who live there an amount equal to 1/5 or 1/4 or 1/3, however many people are living in the house, the HUD fair market rent for that property. So it's a fairly economical rent for them. And then they each pay 1/3, 1/4, or 1/5 of the utilities, which are in our name because many of them can't get it in their name. So we're between the owner of the property, who's our landlord, and the customers we are the landlord to.
Last question.
Yes.
I appreciate the answer.
Yeah.
Bridgeway, according to Beacon, if you look up the properties, pay no property taxes.
Yeah, no, our
we have
our landlord will be paying property taxes, and we own a very small number of houses ourselves around the state that we had to buy because we couldn't find an individual in a community that was willing to be our landlord, and we pay property taxes on those as well. Yes.
And I can also tell you, because Doug couldn't be here tonight, He also bought our new office, which everybody is
Correct.
welcome
Bank
to
Street.
our open house tomorrow from
Yes.
12 to 2
Yes.
at 208 Bank Street. And there's a lot of taxes that stay there. Just thought I'd let you know that.
You
So
made a statement that you support the community.
absolutely,
recreation.
Yes.
absolutely,
Yep.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. So let's go, shall we go with the list?
Yeah, we were
And then
thinking we
individual
could help you
meetings,
go
up to
through.
you.
Yeah, let's,
Did you want to say anything?
On that list that she's referring to, they were concerned about mentally ill people moving into the house, contrast to people that are disabled, that are not hyper functioning, and this mentally ill. There's it's different things. I would ask, does anybody know what mentally illness is? I have allergies. Incontinence, what does it mean, be mentally ill? Do you know if you ask anybody, nobody has to raise their hands, how many people have depression? Do you know that's a mental illness? How about anxiety? I mean, you might be living with somebody who has anxiety about you. So they were so worried about mentally ill people moving in and putting in people in boxes instead of understanding what things were. And I think that's why the community has so much fits, because they don't take time to understand what these things are. Okay? And, yes. And American Disability
Okay,
Act.
I'm going to, in respect to the gentleman who's got the list of questions, I would like to.
And another thing of the questions was, as far as getting a petition up, throw it out. That's not legal. Fair Housing Act of 1988 states that you can move in a house like that.
Sure, no.
Because that is
Yeah.
their home. It's not a company, it's
Absolutely.
their home. And plus, how many people in Keokuk maybe have 5 or 6 people living in a house together that are not related?
Right. Now, when we met with.
So we need to know
When we
what
met
the
with the,
different
okay,
things
good
are.
point. So when we met with the city, it was clearly established that the Fair Housing Act and the Americans with Disabilities Act absolutely allows for this type of arrangement.
Yes.
And so that's kind of a moot point. It's not stoppable
Yeah.
from that percent. But we want to be good neighbors.
Right, absolutely.
And so that's why we're here. And I would really, now these gentlemen have been very patient.
Right.
And ladies. And I'd like to get to some of their questions.
Well, I was
So
going to say, can you explain, because this list was handed to me when I got
Sure,
it.
so
Can you
this is-
explain where this list came from?
he's,
Is it
Is it okay to say where this list came from?
Understand mental illnesses or other illnesses. It's a very disparaging list of people
that's-
that
Okay.
have illnesses, the way they
So,
commented.
so one of the things that happened is that a person in our community who has a family member with a disability reached out to some of the individuals with concerns, and they came up with this list of questions.
Now, I'll tell you.
Correct?
It was a fear list.
You know,
So, well,
No, this is a different
That's
list.
a different list.
Initially,
Okay,
when this thing came out, it all blew up on Facebook, and everybody's wanting to wring everybody's neck. And initially, I was too, and I lashed out on Facebook, and I thought, these people are my friends, I'm gonna go talk to these people on Grant. And we found a lot more common ground, and we found ground that was adversarial to one another.
Yeah.
And we got together with them, and I talked to them, and they asked me to ask these questions. And rather than blindsiding Optimae, I thought it was wise to let them know what was on the question, so they could
I appreciate that.
prepare for the meeting, so that when we did ask the questions, they would have answers to the questions. So that's where the questions come
He's
from.
absolutely right on something. Me having 2 disabled children, the first thing I wanted to do is, how dare they? But then I got talking to some of the people that had the concerns and realized it's through, because they, just less than a month ago, they had a special needs prom right here in this very room. 300 special needs people showed up for this. Not one occurrence happened. They all love each other. We can learn a lot from these kind of people. These are not criminally insane people. Those people do not go in these silos. There's nothing to fear from these people. These are the sweetest people in the world. Over 15 years, I've got to know a lot of them, and I love them like they're my own kids, and some of them are way into
So, but as part of, but Optimae does want, but Optimae does.
They told me people were calling, getting their names taken off the petition because they were like to.
So we're, okay, so just hold on. We are here because we're here to partner with the community. We're here to partner with all aspects of the Keokuk community. We want everybody to understand who we are and what we're here to do. So we're just fine with answering the questions because we want everybody to know who we are and what we're doing. Okay?
People are familiar with what it is, and this is what you guys are trying to explain here.
Yes.
So we have no problem with going through this.
If I thought somebody was moving criminally insane people in next to me and my kids, I'd be upset too.
Right.
So it's basically the reason this got blown out of proportion is because people misunderstood what was going in there, and I think that list probably has a lot of those questions.
Okay, so we're gonna go.
Informational meeting.
Okay,
so
right.
Let us know.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep. Okay, so we're gonna run through this. Angie and I, this team will run through this list really quick.
We'll let you run through it.
And
As
some
long as
of
we
them
keep
we've
HIPAA in
already
mind.
answered
We should
in
give
a
a
way,
HIPAA
but I will go
disclaimer.
ahead and read them, and we'll answer as best as we can. Okay. So the first question is, what is the degree or experience requirements for staff inside homes?
Already
Which
answered
we've
that.
talked about that one, so we can go forth to the next one. Does staff administer medications? What I can tell you about that is it all depends on the customer's needs. We do medication management, and we do a lot of monitoring medications, but we partner with our home health care agency and our nurses that come in and actually set up medications. They're the ones who are talking to the pharmacies and things like that. And then if it's in their plan, we will monitor them taking their medications. Somebody wanted to.
Yes, ma'am. David Johnson. The city council meeting, one yet tonight, Optimae staff indicated that medication compliance was optional at the resident's personal choice. What kind of medication will they receive, and is that true?
Well, it's true that we can't force anyone
So is it part of their treatment to receive part of the treatment as
They're not-
medication
no,
maybe
you
and
can't force them.
management? They're not required to take it. How can you achieve your goal?
It's a good question.
So
one of the things that we have to understand is, as an individual in our communities, any one of us has a choice. We have a choice whether we take our medications, we go to the doctor, we don't go to the doctor. We have that choice, and so just let me.
Could we let us finish answering the question?
So do our customers that we support and serve. This is not only something that Optimae does, this is also mandated from our government, our federal government as well. So we support and encourage, and Optimae does what we call something like positive behavioral supports, which means we look at each individual and we look at their environment and what do we need to do to support them to make the very best decisions that they can possibly make to be the healthiest person in our community. And that's what we do.
Now, the institution that they came from, are they required to take medication?
How do you know they take it?
So
Because Mount Pleasant is closed and the other places.
So the odds are most of these people, and I did not come from an institution. They may have been homeless. They may have been living with family. They may have been living with some other service provider. I mean, there are virtually no institutions for people to come from anymore. So odds are that they were not under any kind of supervision for their medications or anything else before they came to us. And it is true that we cannot, in most cases, require anyone to take medication. Now, there is a small group that sometimes can be forced, and those are people who are on an outpatient commitment. And I mean, you can't force them to take their medication, but you can call the commitment judge and have their outpatient status revoked if they violate one of the terms of that outpatient commitment. So I don't know that any of the folks that we are serving in Keokuk are on that status. It doesn't happen that often anymore, but it is a possibility. But our goal would be to work with the individual's team to see to it that we took the proper steps to help them understand the reasons why they would want to take their medication, to help them keep track of their medication, and to see to it that they take their medication. Because we're in agreement with you all that in 99% of the cases, they are going to fare better if they take their medication. And there was part of that question was, what kind of medication do they take? They take psychotropic medications to help them control their hallucinations and delusions. Some of them take anti-anxiety medication. Some of them take medication for depression. And then they take a wide variety of medications for just the ills that you and I have, everything from high cholesterol to high blood pressure to COPD to sleep apnea, which are common illnesses among this particular group of people. So they're taking a wide range of medications. Those medications have a lot of interactions. That's one of the reasons we developed the home health program to help better serve those individuals who have multiple kinds of medications.
And what we found is that our customers are much more successful with supports in place in using their medications, learning about their medications. And if they're not taking their medications and we do see symptoms occurring, that's what we're there for. Mm-hmm. We address those concerns right away. If they are living in, under a bridge or wherever, those concerns aren't going to likely be addressed. And that is truly when people do have more problems.
And we communicate with their physician when they don't take, if they refuse their medications, we start letting their physician know right away so we can get them back in or manage that in another way.
Well, and or their therapist.
Right. Well, and in the case of here in Keokuk, I mean, we will be the prescriber for many of them. So it's one of our team members that we're communicating with when the report is, because we do our own interdisciplinary teams within our staff. So, I mean, that prescriber is going to get the report that so-and-so isn't taking their such and such. And we're going to have a discussion about what to do about it. So.
And we've had community help us. We have customers who live not inside homes, but live in the community where the police officers know that we serve these individuals, and if they're noticing that something's going on with an individual, they'll give us a call and they'll say, you need to check in on this person, you know, something's not right. So, you know, that's a big thing that we appreciate from the community and the hospitals and neighbors and...
Well, and obviously people do, from time to time, decompensate for all kinds of reasons, some because of things that they do or don't do, and some just because of the biology. And that's part of what we're there for, to intervene, to get a commitment order if necessary, try to convince them to go to the hospital or see their prescriber. So that's part of the service that we're providing. And I guarantee you got plenty of folks living in 4 and 5 and 6 persons to an apartment in your community that nobody's doing that for them.
Yeah.
And you know, that's just that. I mean, that's just a fact. I mean, that's not Keokuk. That's everybody. Yes.
Having mental disability doesn't by default negate your rights. You still have the rights that everybody else does. You can't force somebody. And, you know, that would be criminal. If we took somebody just because they had a mental disability, said that now we can force you to do whatever we want to do, that.
Can we keep moving through these?
We're just going to stay standing up.
Yeah.
we're not trying to leap over the table at you. We just.
Yeah, we did already. The next question says, if you accept someone from outside of Keokuk, where are they coming from, and were they previously in site homes, which we've answered, so we're going to go to the next one. If a resident assaults a staff member, what is the protocol? Can a staff member file assault charges? Does that occur? Law enforcement has confirmed that staff report they will be fired if they do so.
So let me take the first crack at this
That'd
one,
be
okay?
fine.
So like many things that happen in our services, that's a highly individualized answer. There is no global answer to that. The answer is it depends. It depends on whether the assault was a chest bump or someone going after someone with a knife. It depends on whether we know the individual has a history of this kind of thing and it's something we need to be watching for, and we already have a plan in place to work on it, or if it's a new behavior from somebody that's just come out of the blue. So our first step will be to treat it for just what it is. It's a symptom of their psychiatric illness. And look at what the antecedents to the behavior were, what might have caused the behavior or triggered the behavior that we can change. And if we can't find something that we're sufficiently safe with, then we'll probably have that person committed or let the staff file a charge and let them go to jail. That's always our last choice, but it does happen sometimes. Hopefully, most of the staff that we hire and train know that there is some element of risk to this job, that there may be some loud voices and some pushing around happen from time to time. We train people on how best to deal with those situations and de-escalate them. So if it's at the lower half of this scale, we're probably going to work with that staff to give them some time off, to help them understand in sort of a cool moment what happened to trigger that person to do that thing. But if it's just really gregarious out here on the other end, we're not going to stop one of our staff people from exercising their rights.
Nobody has ever been fired for pressing charges in my area. I mean, I can tell you that.
Can I add something to that? My wife worked at a nursing home before she worked with you guys. She came home from emergencies from there, and she kept her fence there. She's safer with you guys than she was there.
Thank you.
I have two relatives that work for you guys, and you guys give them excellent training.
and they're working a good home.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, we
Thank
appreciate
you.
that, we appreciate that.
What behaviors warrant removal from a site home, and how many offenses before the individual is removed?
Yeah.
That's,
So
yeah.
again,
I'll let
case by case, but
Okay.
go ahead.
So our care is very much individualized. So it depends on the individual. It depends on what has happened. We believe at your side, on your side. We believe in that. People are in service because they need that support. They're in service because they do have symptoms and sometimes do things that later they wish they wouldn't have done. So it is definitely an assessment that we do within Optimae, and we include the individual's family, their case manager, their care coordinator, in deciding is there something we could do different to make sure this doesn't happen again. And in the unfortunate situations, and it is unfortunate that we have to discharge, it's an individual decision.
And quite frankly, we view that as a failure on our part rather than a failure on the part of the individual, because that means we just weren't good enough to meet that person's needs. No, it is. I mean, our goal is to meet everybody's needs.
Right.
I mean, we understand that's not achievable, but that doesn't stop it from being our goal.
Because there's nowhere else for that person to go.
Yeah.
Right.
They're going to fail.
I mean, we are, you say where did they come from the institution? There's no institution to come from, and there's no institution to go to. If you leave
nowhere else to go.
especially the number of people with fairly significant levels of disability that we work with, if they leave our service, the odds are they're going to end up under the bridge sooner or later.
Thank you, Governor Branstad.
I won't make any
We won't make any comments about that. This is not a political forum.
We can have it aside sometime.
If you have a question about a question, you can do that. But if you have a comment, let's try to keep everything until let them get through their questions so that we can keep everybody going.
What behaviors, events require critical incident reporting, and do you report it to the state?
Susan?
Yes. The critical incidents are mandated by the state of Iowa and Iowa Code. It's Iowa law that we report a critical incident on very specific things. And those critical incidents go to the Medicaid managed care organization, which then goes on to the state. We used to send them directly to the state. So it's very much mandated for what we have to do a critical incident for. If the police are called, if there's a medication error, if someone gets hurt, if one of our customers hurts somebody else, those things are all part of what we have to report to the state. They're reported and they are tracked. We track them internally. We look for trends so that we can see if there's a site home that's struggling more or a community that's struggling more, and we'll come in and provide support to that community and try to reduce that number of critical incidents.
Also, since this is, so there's state law, but then that produces administrative rules to govern it, this changes from time to time. So what we had to report last year, we don't have to report this year, and what we have to report this year, we didn't have to report last year. So,
that's why I was trying to do broad strokes.
Well, it's just good, just need to know that it's a moving target, and the nuance of it changes from time to time.
Now, this is a long one, so I'm going to read it and then give us just a minute to respond to it, because there's a couple of different things in here. So at the City Council meeting on May 18th, Optimae staff confirmed the site home was for individuals with serious mental illness at the intensive 3 level. They stated that 5 residents would receive the highest level of service authorized for 17 to 24 hours per day with 1 staff present. It is very important to clarify the definition for the public because the media deliberately omitted this from their article. This U9 designation is defined as has significant risk of harm to self or others, which renders him or her incapable of appropriate self-care or self-regulation and lacks the ability or capacity to participate in structured or meaningful activity in the community due to significant behaviors that could cause harm to self or others. First, I would like to say that I was not at that meeting. I was not aware of it until right before it happened. So the staff that were there, I had not talked with them. So we don't have it set who is going to actually move into this home yet. So I can't tell you that there's going to be 24-hour services there every day, forever, because we're still doing assessments to figure out who it is that's going to live in that home. Okay, so hopefully that answers that part of it.
So the tiers are funding levels
From the MCOs.
They're not service levels necessarily. It's highly unlikely that someone would stay at a U9, which is the highest level, funding level, or a U8 for very long periods of time and be stable in living in a site home. They would much more likely be a U7 or a U6. So what that means is that criteria might be the condition that someone comes to us from the hospital. In other words, they're saying this person can't be trusted to take care of themselves because they've been inpatient, they've exhibited significant symptoms, whatever else got them there. That just means we're going to work with them more intensely, and if they're at that level, we are most likely going to have someone supervising them 24 hours a day. But there'll be people living in that site that aren't at that funding level and don't receive that degree of services either. So there's some mixing and matching that goes on. Now, it's generally true, people who are doing very, very well and receive fairly low levels of funding would much prefer to live in a place that's quieter and more peaceful. And so they're going to gravitate towards living in that kind of environment, where people who have more significant levels of symptoms are probably more likely to live with people who are also experiencing fairly significant level of symptoms. And we're going to staff it accordingly. Now that's a general rule, but we break it all the time because people don't always want to move. It's their home. We can ask them to move, but we would try to respect their rights to stay where they were if that was important to them. So there's a lot of things that go into play as to who lives in an individual site, what their level of funding is, how long they stay there. We just can't answer the question in a black and white manner.
It's really, truly a case-by-case basis because, as you know, people's symptoms change as well. So a person who's doing extremely well for 6 months may be triggered by a situational event in their life and escalate to the point where they have to go to the hospital. Well, then the hospital will release them and say they're at the highest level of need right now. So we will change the staffing pattern to meet the needs of the individuals in that particular site.
So you have multi-tiered individuals in one home?
Yes.
Sometimes.
Because
all
people's
the time.
needs
Well, yeah, all the time, but some.
their needs change.
Yeah, because we change people's level of support depending on their needs. So as they get better, their tier level would come down.
And their funding level would come down, and there'd be their services would focus more on rehabilitation and less on supervision and support.
I think that answers all of those.
Move on.
Do you confirm that this is the population that will be in the site home? And I think we just talked about that. And okay, so that answered that question, I believe, correct? Okay.
Will the site home always be used for this population? If they say that the site home will only be used for individuals with a developmental disability, again, we let people, as much as we can, pick their roommates. You could have somebody with an intellectual disability living with somebody with a mental illness. They don't always live together, but sometimes they might. They might. This home could be used to serve either of those populations. More than likely will be.
Well, and a fairly significant subset of individuals with intellectual disabilities also have a serious mental illness.
Right.
So it's probably not likely that someone would be living in this particular home location that had an intellectual disability only, but it's quite probable that there'll be some people there who also have an intellectual disability.
And some of that depends upon what the community needs. I mean, these are your folks that we're taking care of, so that's a big factor.
How many site homes in Keokuk will have the U8, U9 designations, and where will they be located? I can't tell you that. We hold ourselves to very high confidentiality and HIPAA standards, and we're not going to let people know where customers live. If they choose to let you know which house they live in, that's up to them.
Well, and again, those funding levels are not static.
Right.
That's not the way.
Yep.
That's not the way we
Doesn't work that way.
engage people in where to live.
No.
For the most part.
It's not like this is a U9 home and will only ever be a U9 home. That's not the way it works. It's about the individuals that live in the home and what services they need.
Because again, you may come out of the hospital with a very high level of need. Our job is to try to work with you and help you stabilize so that your level of need goes down. And so that it's a fluid kind of situation. Just like all of us. We have good days and bad days.
If a resident is designated as a U8 or U9 in a site home, how do you minimize the risk? What measures will be taken to ensure the safety of the residents, staff, and the neighborhood? What I can tell you again is that each individual customer has a plan. And the whole team, everybody who is on that team gets together, they come up with a plan on how can they be successful? What can we do to help them be successful? We have crisis plans for them, individualized crisis plans. What happens when they start to struggle? What are we going to do to help them? We have on-call staff, we have site team leaders, we have service coordinators, we have a lot of different individuals checking on people at all times and working their plans.
And not only do we have that, our organization takes managing individuals' risk very, very seriously. So if anybody anywhere in our company is struggling with a particular customer, their symptoms, or they don't know what else to do, they can dial in our risk management team, and we'll come and help support them and talk about, okay, well, have you tried this, or have you tried that, or let's come in and do an assessment of the home and figure out, is there something else that we could be doing differently? So not only is the local team has that crisis plan to function from, they also have experts that they can pull in from across their company to help develop a better plan.
So, and a general word about safety, if I might. And I used to have this number in my brain. I've gotten too old, I don't have it exactly anymore. But persons with serious mental illness are multiple times more likely to be the victims of violence than they are to be the perpetrators of violence. And so that's just a scientifically proven fact.
And one other piece is we, in my region, which is Henry, Lee, Louisa, and Des Moines County, in the last couple of years, I think it's been, have hired a clinical director who is Tracy Liptak, who has been an incredible addition to our team, who helps us with crisis plans, helps us with success and integration plans, helps us with assessments. She's involved with a lot of things in our area that really help a lot with the crisis interventions
We do have one of the things that we are very proud about at Optimae, and we've worked hard to get to this point, is we have an umbrella of care for our people. So we've got doctors, therapists, the community professionals being supervised by several other people.
Nurses.
We've got home health care aides, occupational therapy. We have directors of departments that are experts, that have masters and PhDs that work for Optimae, and lawyers. We've got a team of lawyers. I mean, we have a lot of resources that we dial in regularly, and we have developed times and events and triggers for when to dial these people in too. So.
You have a question about, off of that question?
I guess I have a question. So understand this, U9 label or whatever it is, should a patient go in the hospital, come out with that label, at that point in time, you would increase personnel in the home until they are stepped down to the point they need less care.
Exactly.
That's exactly correct.
What is the staffing pattern for sorry.
There's a couple. She's had her hand up like 4 times.
I just had a question. What is your protocol then for if you have a resident or a client who has an altercation with someone outside of Optimae, a neighbor? What is your protocol then for that when that happens?
I guess it depends on what the...
We're going to say a case-by-case basis.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, it would depend on what the altercation was, so, and how that information came to us. But let's say it was a verbal exchange.
Let's say it's a physical exchange.
Okay, what would the, I can't think of a time in my 19 years of working for Optimae where there has been one of our customers who has physically assaulted, even pushed a neighbor.
No.
So I think
if it's going to happen, it's going to be
highly unlikely. But if that happened, it would be reported to us either by the neighbor themselves, or we would have observed it, or by the police, because they would have been called, and we would immediately, obviously, that person would either go to the hospital or they would go to jail, depending on whether or not the hospital assessed their ability, them to be eligible to be inpatient services, and we'd examine, what went wrong. That's if that ever happened. We have a risk management call every Tuesday morning that lasts for about an hour that all of us are on, as well as our risk management team, as well as one of our attorneys. We would hear about it immediately. We would staff it on that call, and we would execute a plan.
So let's say that happens,
Yep.
and that unfolds that way, and then the person is put back into the home. Do you do anything?
I think it's highly unlikely, that I would say it's 99% unlikely that we would allow that person to go back to that location if they actually physically assaulted a neighbor, a person in the community.
In most instances in that situation, there would be a restraining order and they wouldn't be able to
Yeah.
be able to come back, yeah.
But a restraining order is.
Right.
Sure.
Right.
Well,
I understand that,
Right.
but
There's lease implications as well.
Yeah.
And again,
What if it is just ongoing verbal type harassment? What's your protocol then?
Again, we want to be very good neighbors in the community. If anybody has a concern, just come let us know, and we'll develop a plan and intervention to be able to help and support and assist with that. Absolutely.
Well, and if that's occurring too, that's a message to our interdisciplinary treatment team. We meet all the time, regularly, that this person's symptoms are escalating, that there's something going on. And, it would likely mean we need to talk to that person's doctor and evaluate their medications, and or see if they would be willing to see a therapist or go more often to their
And again, I would put sure.
Yeah.
I would put ongoing verbal harassment down at about a 97% unlikely thing to occur. I do not ever recall us.
There's a site we go on, it's Iowa Mental Health Statistics. If you go on that site, you have more chance of getting abused or hit or verbally assaulted by a next door neighbor or somebody that has drug problems,
Sure.
or stealing or breaking in, than you have a mental
Absolutely.
illness person.
So
Iowa Mental Health Statistics.
So I appreciate your concerns, but what I'm trying to convey is those are such low-level likelihoods of occurrence that I don't recall us ever having to deal with them in the 19 years that I've been with this company.
Yeah, to back up a little bit. So one of the things, so one of the things that we look at.
That's our concern.
Yeah, I understand. I hear what you're saying. One of the things that we embellish is what's called recovery. And in order for a person to be successful in their environment, we call it the get, choose, keep method. Right, so or choose, get, keep. You choose a home, so Angie's got multiple. We've got multiple places to live in this area, and so an individual will go tour multiple places and meet multiple potential roommates so that they can be happy and successful in their environment, because we know that they're not going to be successful if they're not happy, right? I mean, same with you and I. If I hate where I live, I'm going to be unsuccessful. So we work really, really hard for them to be happy where they live.
Happy with the neighbors.
Yeah, so you mentioned law enforcement. I mean, I think most of the law encounters between our customers and law enforcement that are in a site tend to be based around an individual having hallucinations or delusions that are uncontrolled for some reason, and either causing property damage or threatening someone.
In their own home.
I mean, in one of their roommates or one of the staff people. That would, I think, account for about, 95% of police reports that we have. I mean, I'm making numbers up, but I mean, that's really, as I said, those other two occurrences I've never dealt with. Occasionally there'll be an issue where someone will be decompensating, perhaps hallucinating. They'll be in their yard or on the street and scaring people because of what they're saying or talking to, but again, that'll get reported to us, and we'll.
This is my last comment.
It's okay.
But that leads me to a second question, because I've heard other rumors about how these homes are just trashed by people, just as you described it.
Sure.
So what kind of pressure do you have on your landlord to ensure that those homes are not?
So first of all, we're going to pay any damage that our customers create. We're going to repair. That's the way our lease works. We're also going to work to keep the yard and the grounds up to the standards of whatever neighborhood we're located in, because that's, I mean, we all live someplace and that's important to us. And, you know, the advantage you have with us is if we're there, if you see something you don't like, you can complain to us. I guarantee it'll get to us pretty fast. And we're going to get it fixed.
And I can tell you that this particular landlord is excellent. He's on top of things.
Yep.
He has a fix-it man as well. Whether he's paying for it or we're paying for it, it's going to get done. I've met landlords across the whole state of Iowa, and he's excellent. He's going to be a great community partner here.
We take pride in our homes.
I'm out of the room.
Remember, but
That's why people need to educate themselves.
Right.
And if they go to the police station, ask them the statistics on how many times they get called out in different places compared to
And-
a site home, or compared to like a Mississippi Terrace, or one of the other places around. Ask the statistics.
Right, and the other thing is,
And they're not worried about them.
and we're neighbors, we're part of this, all of us are part of this team. You have a concern, I'll give you Angie's card and my card and, you know,
That
whatever.
card's up here.
You've got a concern, you let me know, you let us know, and we'll come out. Absolutely, absolutely, hands down, we will be there.
I received a call telling me that there was trash in an alley today. I drove over there to see if there was trash in an alley. It's not even a home that
It's
we
not even our side.
that we serve. But I drove over there to see if there was trash. I was going to talk to the staff.
However, most alleys I'm familiar with do have some trash in them.
Right, but yeah,
You know,
so yes, before
Well,
you leave, yes,
well, and-
absolutely.
and-
It was
you
picked
know-
up by the time I got there, but when I drove there, I'm like,
I mean-
we don't even serve anyone here.
And full disclosure, we're not perfect. We make mistakes. Our staff make mistakes. But what I want you to hear is we care about fixing them.
Yes.
Back on our safety issue, due to Freedom of Information Act, we found, called the police there in Keokuk, chief of police, January 1st through 2015, to May 18th, 2017, 221 calls at 6 locations, and that's not exhaustive. Those 6 locations, 221 calls. So is that a good use of public money? And there again, it doesn't make a difference if it's whatever the excuse is. They at least get
6 of
calls.
our locations?
That's the service. The service
I can't say that they're ours. I know the number. We have a lot of medical. We had somebody. When he was very
Well-
sick.
Do I think that's I'm a little.
Barb.
My name's Barb Whitten. I'm the Associate Regional Director in this county. I am on call 24/7. So I do want to say the calls that come out of our area are not calls because of more mental health issues. It's more calls because of medical issues. So we don't, in our side, we don't have 6 sites currently. We have less than that. And I get all those calls anytime the police are called or anytime somebody's going to the hospital. And I know those 221 calls were not all of them. So I just want to speak on, we don't have a lot of these issues that are being brought up in regards to customers being assaulted or violent. Again, it goes back to more of they're having mental
And there's more homes here than just Optimae.
things like that.
Well, it's more than just
I just
Optimae.
want to assure you that
I mean,
that we
I don't
are.
know. Nobody thinks that there's other sites
There's
here.
6 homes could be a quarter house.
Nobody thinks there's other homes.
So sir, can I ask you where, 221 calls to where?
How many of you had at your house, sir? How many calls?
No. Well,
We want to keep this. We want to keep this simple.
yeah, I'll try not to answer.
We
No,
want to keep this simple.
I'm trying to. Okay.
It's medical issues.
I'm trying to find 200.
Ma'am, can you allow them to the
221 police calls.
We have a police officer here
To
who's
where?
wanting to talk.
To our sites?
Sometimes I feel like I'm invisible. Sometimes law enforcement. Yeah, I'll field any questions you have about calls for service. I've done 28 years responding to a lot of those calls, and I'm open to questions.
But I'd still like to get I would still like to get my question answered. Are you saying that there were 221 police calls to our sites and our customers?
How do you know that there are sites and our customers?
Well, then that's a bogus number. Yeah. And by the way, I do think, and I'll let the police speak for themselves, They're going to receive calls about these individuals, whether they're living with us, with some other provider, or underneath the bridge. And that's just a function, one of the functions of public safety, and I'm sure this gentleman will tell you that.
I have a question for the officer. Have you found that statistics-wise that you've had personally, you get more calls to people that aren't being assisted and taken care of by a group like this that are living with their parents, say, or living on their own?
Probably not, because we're
Or
recognizing
the
the
neighbors feel safer with one of them living with their parents or living in one of these units as a neighbor?
Well, I can tell you that where I live, I learned a year and a half ago that there was one of these homes a stone's throw away from me, and it had been there for years.
Yeah,
I didn't know it.
I got one 2 blocks away, and I just found that.
The individuals living there, I don't even know who they are. They've never caused me any problems.
The number sounds frightening, but it's over the course of 30 months.
And it's any police calls about people with mental illness, apparently, not police calls to our locations.
But it's medical issues, not violent issues.
I can tell you this, if there's 241 calls, and I can't dispute that, but I can almost assure you that there was twice that number of calls to Walmart, to one building.
I never thought about that.
We have a question right here.
When they ask questions, could they please state their name? I'm talking. When they ask questions, could they please state their name?
That's up to the company.
I don't care.
So again, we're here with open hearts and in good faith. We're very passionate about the people we're here to support, and we're also very passionate about keeping our community safe. We would not bring somebody into this community that we did not feel we could support and help and manage in the community. So I don't know how to say that any more plainly. There's been a lot of rumors that have gone on around the Keokuk community. When we heard about those, we made an appointment with the mayor right away, and we're here today to let you know that this is who we are and this is what we're here to do.
I feel like a lot of questions are based on how good will this be or how much will this be, but I think we're missing the overall question of how does that compare to if you guys weren't here, before and after, and we're missing that in the pictures. The police calls, the jobs, the care, everything else. Are you not missing the picture of? It's not a question of how good the quality is. If you guys weren't here, what would they have otherwise? It's before and after. It's not.
So we're going to try to get back to the questions. So can we get through these questions and then we'll keep it open? Are you okay with that, or?
Sure.
Sir,
okay.
You asked about the locations here in town. I don't know if you confirm or deny this, but I just have 6 homes here that maybe not yours, but these are homes that were driven at 721 Concord Street.
Well, just so you know, we're not going to tell you if an address is, because we have to keep confidentiality for our customers, so we can't tell you whether that's an Optimae site home or not.
I have a question for you, officer. How when you go out through this, all these violent calls, or just the people that have been
How many sites do we have?
We don't
Most of the calls are like that gentleman
We've got
said,
like 2.
Someone's having trouble that day, someone's here in places, or just
How many sites?
everyday life that we all have.
Right, well, we have 2. Okay, so we go ahead. Sorry.
I can tell you, I've been on calls in doctors' homes and lawyers' homes and police officers' homes and then people with mental illness. We all have problems.
So we can confirm that over the recent past, we have provide services to people at 2 sites.
3.
Well,
one's a one-person
Right,
site.
but one's a
For
one-person.
I've been with the
Yeah.
company for 12 years.
Yeah.
We've had 2 that we
so at least 4, whether or not any of those addresses are our sites, 4 of them certainly aren't.
Okay, we're going to come back. Go.
Yeah,
go,
she's had
go ahead.
her question. She's raised her hand like for a long
My
time.
name is Don Hendricks. My son lives at 317 High Street. That is a group home. It was brought to us by Mary Jane Jackson. She bought the house for us. We've been there for over 30 years. And I'm very concerned about somebody living in a home that is not just male inventory. There's two different things, and I feel real passionate about this. And I do think that one of the things that this county needed to do was to keep the home out of 218. I think that was a good place.
Thank you. Don't know there's an answer. Go ahead.
Okay. What is the staffing pattern for 5 residents at the U8 or U9 level? What happens if there is only one staff member present and they are busy dealing with a resident? Who is supervising the other 4 residents? Again, this is really on a case-by-case basis. It's hard to answer that. We're doing assessments with people, and it depends on what their level is. So that is really difficult to answer.
That said, we do have an on-call system in every area of the company, and so if there's a situation in a home that requires additional staff, or somebody else has something else going on, that we do have an on-call system that we can utilize to pull extra staff members in. Also, a lot of our folks in our homes have what we have time. Obviously, we don't want to go grocery shopping altogether, right? I mean, that's the old mantra that I don't want to go grocery shopping with my kids. I mean, I'm going to leave them at home. So oftentimes we have double or triple staff coverage in a home. Now, it's different, like Angie said, for every home. For every individual has a different staffing pattern, but very seldom is it actually one person there all the time.
Correct. Okay. Does it ever happen that staff no-show for work at the site homes?
Never.
And how are absences handled?
Yes, that does happen.
Never.
No, we don't allow it.
I can tell we're starting to get punchy here. We have very specific policy and procedure about when a staff member does not show up for a shift. It's very, very specific, and our staff are trained on it repeatedly. And it's basically that if I'm on shift and Angie is supposed to come and she doesn't come, I can't leave. I call my on-call supervisor, and they either find a backup, or my on-call supervisor comes to the site home and is with the individuals.
And if it's a house where there's not another employee there when the other employee is supposed to be there, I guarantee you the customers are calling us and saying so-and-so didn't show up.
So if it's somebody that they don't have overnight staff and someone's supposed to be there at 8, we know. Yep.
Yeah.
Does every resident get their own bedroom? If not, how is that decided? Yes.
Absolutely.
Every customer has their own bedroom. What will the site homes be all male, female, or co-ed? Will the residents be mixed tiers? We answered the mixed tiers, and some of them are co-ed, some of them aren't. It depends on the individuals and the assessments that we do.
And their preferences.
Yeah,
and their preferences,
and to some extent, I mean, some people who experience mental illness and require services have been victimized quite a lot throughout their life. So that some people are comfortable living with people of the other sex in their house, and some people aren't. And that's going to,
so we move people
that kind of thing is
going
to dictate the makeup of the house more so than just all one or all the other or whatever.
And we're almost done. What happens if and when a resident's tier level changes? We talked about that as well. Everybody was okay with that answer. At the city council meeting, Optimae staff indicated that medication compliance was optional. We talked about that. Is it reasonable to assume that their symptoms and behaviors will escalate and intensify without it? And how is that handled?
We talked about that.
And we talked about that.
Yep.
That's the end of the questions. I hope that we answered.
I would say at this point it is up to if you
yes,
want to, or if you
I would say,
and then stay around. For
I would just say, first of all, any follow up to any of those questions or any of the answers to those questions.
We've got one right over in the middle.
I can barely hear you.
We live directly behind the suicide home, and I think before the evening's over, I just wanted to say that for those of you reason for this town hall meeting that the mayor called was to alleviate some of our fears and concerns.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad we've had that opportunity. In some ways, I don't feel like those have been relieved because the answers have been pretty vague about it all depends, it all depends, it all depends. And I understand that. And I guess I don't want people to leave here tonight and call us what they call us early as prejudiced and bigoted, because I am not that. My husband and I ran a group home many years ago when they were called group homes for the mentally, developmentally disabled. We did that out of choice. We wanted to do that. The family I grew up in adopted 4 children that were unadoptable in their environment. One was schizophrenic and difficult. This is not about prejudice. This is not about being bigots, and this is not about living in great home. This is about concerns, alleviating our fears and concerns, and truly wanting to know if the rumors we've been fed are true. And some of that has been answered. I will just address you wide open. I am still unsure and uncomfortable about that U9 and U8 description. I can't help that. I do understand. I've worked in a hospital for 30 years. I've been around the psych ward where the U9 was residing. I know how quickly they can escalate and how they absolutely have no control. You can see in their eye when they lose their medication, they don't take it, and they act out. It's very frightening. And I'm not speaking from biased fears. I'm talking about real life. I'm talking about the children that run our neighborhood on their bicycles. And that house is very close to the sidewalk. I'm not saying these people don't have a right to be mixed into society if the psychiatrist has said that they are safe to be there. And if their needs can be met, I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a bit of a problem with mentally retarded, the developmentally disabled, those who need a hand up. I don't have a problem with that. I am worried about the harmful to self and others. That is the phrase that has troubled me. I happen to be the other. I'm the other in that phrase. And I don't care what your statistics are. The others are me and some of the neighbors around that home. And it's not just that home, it's all of the homes. And I appreciate the fact that some of you have testified to the fact that you've had no troubles in your neighborhood. That's going before you tonight. We just want some of that dispelled. We don't want to be bad guys. We want information, and we want some of our fears.
Yeah, well, we appreciate that.
So I'm not leaving here tonight completely comfortable, but I am more informed, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate the mayor calling the town meeting. I just need all of you to understand that when you leave here tonight. This isn't about us against you, you against us. It's about what's best.
I appreciate that. I'd like to clarify one thing. The mayor didn't call the town meeting, we did. The mayor didn't call the town meeting, we did. When we heard that people came to the council meeting and were concerned, we reached out to the mayor and said, we would like to have a meeting, we would like to sponsor the meeting, we want to talk to people directly. So we are the reason this meeting is occurring.
At the town meeting, the mayor said he would call.
I do understand that, but we preempted that.
He's the one, in my opinion, that started.
Okay, well, I would respectfully disagree with you.
Yeah.
We showed up
Gave them a call right after
of our
that I
own
heard about
volition.
the
Nobody
meeting.
had to ask us to come. And I do appreciate your concerns, and we're all afraid of the unknown, and I understand this is an unknown for you. So I would just ask that you give us the opportunity to prove that we're capable of doing what we say we're doing, and that we're worthy to help these people live in your neighborhood. And We will give you our contact information if you have any concerns. We're more than happy to hear from you. Well, not more than happy, but I'm more than willing to hear from you. Because if I hear from you, that means something isn't going right. So that's the best. I can't alleviate the rest of your concerns, but that's the closest I can come tonight.
You want to take one more in the back?
Yeah, no, well,
keep going.
There's one more here that's been left up.
Yeah, she's had her hand up more.
Yeah.
Yes, hi. I have a sibling brother who is 52 years old, and he is a severely paranoid schizophrenic. He lives with my mother. He has had several problems, and he is now rehabilitated on medicine that helps him. And I can assure you, these people, if they are not on the proper medication, they are evaluated and by different doctors, by different professionals that will help these people be the best that they can be in their life. I do appreciate every one of you for having these facilities for these people. If it wasn't for people like you, these people would be on the street and have nowhere to go.
Thank you.
If my 80-year-old mother would not be living, my brother wouldn't have a place to go. So I do appreciate everything that you do for these people that need your help.
Thank you.
We'll go to the red, and then we'll go to the white and gray shirt here.
Have you ever placed sex offenders in your psych homes, and would you if you were asked to?
So the short answer to that is we do sometimes serve people who are on the sex offender registry. We are very, very, very careful about which ones that we are willing to work with. We need to. Well, sure. You know, well, they're absolutely watched 24 hours a day. I don't know that we have any. I don't know if we're serving any people on the registry in Lee County or not. And again, I don't know that there would be anybody like that scheduled to live in this facility, for one thing, and it just depends on what the nature of their illness is. But I noticed that there's a swing not far from the backyard of this house. I noticed that the first time I saw it. That means either kids or grandkids are hanging around there. So first of all, we would automatically screen out anyone who had any offending history involving children. But we do occasionally serve individuals who are on the registry. We try to put them in places, quite frankly, that are somewhat out of the way. We have several living on a couple of farms. We do have some who live in cities, but they're very specific instances. A number of them are individuals who were perpetrated when they were in foster care or group care, and so they are on the registry kind of technically because they then re-perpetrated other people. So we do serve some individuals like that, but we're very, very, very careful about who we take, and we make sure we don't take anyone that we think is outside our capabilities. And then again, they're living in very controlled environments. I would guess, and I don't know if I had a number to throw out. I know there's very few that we maybe a dozen statewide,
That's
something like that. And again, these are individuals whose pre-existing is they have a serious mental illness or an intellectual disability. In fact, and most of them are duly diagnosed with both. And then they're on the registry for some, I won't say minor offense, but kind of odd offense. And so we make the determination that their illness is really what needs to be treated, and then we just keep very, very, very good track of them. We've never had any significant problems because we do so much work up front to screen them.
I was going to say, are we had the gentleman in the white and gray with a question?
My name is Stan Jones. I used to live in Keokuk. My entire family lives in Keokuk. I now reside in Macomb, Illinois. I'm back here a lot. I have a special needs sister. You know, and when Optimae or Bridgeway or whatever company it is, my sister can be mad at them, be mad at the family, before she'll ever be mad at anybody in the community. They can make fun of her, they can call her names, they can call her retard, and they're still her friends at the end of the day. We're the ones that pay that price. They're the ones who pay that price. It's not the citizens of Keokuk that pay the price. It's us who watch after them. A lady spoke a little bit ago about Eagle Summit and wishing they were still here. Well, let me tell you a little bit something about Eagle Summit closing down. People got pushed out. My sister's one of them that got pushed out. They said, we're going to make a better home for her. She's able to live by herself. We're going to see to it that she's got round-the-clock funding, that she's going to have someone with her all the time. She lived by herself, I think, roughly 11 years. Then all of a sudden, the state of Iowa took the funding away. We lost the staffing. We had to move her. So we moved her in to an apartment with another person. Worked out great. Person's left. She's stuck in this apartment paying rent that most of us in this room can't afford to pay. This company here is taking her in, going to put her in one of these site homes, doesn't matter which one it is, but they're going to see to it. I've viewed it, I've seen it, 24-hour care. You know, and she's not that bad. Can she have an off moment? You bet she can. Has she had an off moment with me? You bet she has. You bet she has. Has she had an off moment with anybody in the community that's not staff related or family related? Absolutely not. Thank you.
Then Kathy.
Yeah, there's a couple things. First of all, I understand your fears on Grand. And like I said, I've been talking with some people on Grand, not everybody on Grand. And I can't speak for everybody. And our opinions don't always match up 100%, but they match up pretty closely. My daughter is a high-level carer. She harms herself, and she is a potential harm to caregivers and this and that. What these guys are doing, you know, I'm going to flip this back and forth because I'm here to see if these are the guys that we want for the job. But what they're supposed to do is mitigate that. The whole thing is to harm yourself and harm to others. If it's properly mitigated, then it's not a problem. Then it's out of the community, and that they're doing things at home, and they have a strategy, and they have a behavior intervention plan. If the behavior begins to escalate, which they'll see when they're closer because they're closely related to the person. So the other thing, and I don't mean to offend anybody, but is it impossible for me not to be offended when you're saying, I don't think my daughter belongs on that block, or you guys don't think my daughter belongs on your block? Well, then the question becomes, how far away is it okay? Is it okay if she lives 6 blocks away from you? Is it okay if she lives, does she need to be in another county? You know, it's impossible for us not to get offended, and I don't want to be offended at the people on Graham because a lot of them are very, very good friends of mine that I went to high school. So that's my 2 cents there. Now, as far as the onus is on you, is what I'm hoping from you guys is that community-based support interventions or have the best outcome of anything for people with disabilities, if it's done right. And that means being a part of the community, and that falls on your laps to do it. I'm hoping that you guys are the people that are going to do this. Eventually, my daughter's 15 now. Eventually, she's going to fall under the care of somebody. Eventually, my wife and I will be gone. And I'm counting on somebody. I don't know if it's you. I can't say it is. I'm hopeful that it is. But I'm hoping that we can not just do what we need to do to get your homes in place in Keokuk. I'm hoping that we can do something that makes Keokuk the role model for other towns. To let's show how community-based inclusion is supposed to work. And I want to do it here. I want to do it for my daughter. I'm here for selfish reasons. I'm advocating on her behalf. But I'm counting on you guys to do that. There is a lot of legitimate questions, and most of it's fear and rumor and a lot of stuff that you read on the internet. And it scares me. If you told me that you're going to open up a halfway house for Waywood boys next to me, I'd be saying, what the hell is going on here? You know, I'm nervous.
Well, fortunately for you, that's not our business.
Not everybody says, I know somebody with a disability, but not everybody lives with somebody with a disability. And when you live with somebody with a disability, you understand the difference. I understand that these things can be mitigated. They hear the symptoms and they hear the horror stories, because most of the time parents like me are venting about the challenges that we're going through, and they're not hearing the good stuff, they're hearing the horror stories. And of course it's freaking scary when you're thinking that that's going to move in next to you. But like I said, I'm hopeful, and one of the things I'm hopeful that you guys will do, and I don't know if you have, and I understand that there's right to privacy issues, and I also understand, I'm familiar with the federal law and you guys' policy law. But I'm hoping that you know, there's somewhere along the line a police liaison, a presence there, so that
an ounce of prevention versus a pound of cure thing, so that if there's something, if you can anticipate something, like in my daughter's case, she elopes a lot. So we give out flyers to the neighbors, which of course you wouldn't do that, but I also get down to the police department and say, she might elope, this is what she looks like, this is how to contact us. And I would think that in your cases, if you guys anticipated something, if you had somebody that had a problem, you wouldn't have to give their blood type or say whatever. But I would think that there would be somewhere along the line that you would actually be working with law enforcement to keep the newspaper and the statistics and to make it reflect well on what we're doing and to be a positive influence in the community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can somebody come and visit your group homes and have some beer, maybe with your group homes, and look what you're doing and stuff? That might alleviate it. I don't know if that's presentable. I don't know if they can or
Well,
not.
we couldn't bring somebody into someone else's home. These are those people's homes. It's their
Yeah, I'm
homes.
just wondering.
So, but I would like to say just a couple of things really quickly. I'll try to, I know that it's starting to get late in the evening, but in Adel, Iowa, we are in Adel. We're incorporated into the community there. We have a bookstore and a cafe where individuals work there who are getting supported employment. You wouldn't be able, you don't know who is somebody getting supported employment and who is just somebody working. We also have a bakery there. We're teaching people how to bake. We have an organic farm. They come to the farmer's market. These are our communities. We're part of that community. And yes, we hope to do that here in Keokuk as well. Absolutely.
Yep. And so when we first started there, we actually had to buy a house there because we couldn't find a suitable house to rent. And nobody sort of put up opposition initially, but there were lots of complaints, and we worked with the city, and we worked with the city, and we worked with the city. And now we're to the point where our bakery has a vacant lot next to it where a commercial building burned down, and the previous owner of the bakery had made an agreement with the city to fix up the lot and never did. And so when we approached the city and said, would you let us fix up the lot, they said, we would be glad to have you do that because we know you will follow through. And that's what we will do here. We will follow through.
And we do work very closely with law enforcement. We have created in a couple of our regions jail diversion programs, and we employ people through Optimae to work in jail diversion and closely with the officers.
And I've been around this area. I was involved when Charleston Place moved into the community. I actually started that program up almost 20 years ago come this September. And so for 20 years I've been working with ResCare, Optimae in the community services area, and we work very closely with law enforcement. They have been wonderful to work with. When our on-call people are on call, we're talking with them. So yes, I can assure you that we do have that relationship. There is jail diversion now in this area. It's not Optimae that runs it, but we work very closely with them, and they're working closely with the law enforcement in this area as well.
That's it. It's up to you guys if you want to keep doing questions or if you want to.
Maybe a couple more for 10 minutes, maybe. Or?
I'll go as long as they will.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was just wondering where, maybe I missed it, I don't know. Where was the outrage with, is it Lincoln Way out on Johnson Street Road?
Lincoln Ridge.
Lincoln Ridge.
And the home that Donna talked about with her son. I was involved with that years ago. I don't remember any outrage then, and I know of 2 other places in town that are private group homes that the people own and are landlording out to
I don't know anything
people.
about
And
those.
I didn't hear any outrage there. And they've been very successful.
Kathy had a question.
My sister was involved. Danielle worked with you guys.
Oh, yeah.
And I know there were people mad because there's still people on the street today she couldn't move because they were so rotten about it. But anyway, my question is, the homes are coming in, you know, I'm happy, you know, but why don't you, could you address to the residents that are in the neighborhood, what's the best way to, do you welcome them like any other neighbor, or is it best just to keep your head down, get to your car, you know? I mean, what's the best way for the community to interact with people?
Follow the golden rule.
The golden rule, right?
It's that simple, right?
Also, like, I remember Danielle used to complain that the few amount of churches that would pick people up from the Charleston place, you know, and she's like, well, where are they? They're supposed to be Christian. Where are they? They need to get our people to church. But anyway, you know, kind of give them a little pep talk on that, because you do have success stories.
Oh, sure.
Well, I guess one of the things that I can say is that normally people don't know. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. So my people tried to, we have lots of marketing and communication materials. And my people tried very hard to get me to show you some videos tonight.
I didn't.
Well, many of them tried very hard to get me to show you some videos tonight. And that's exactly what those are. Those are testimonials and things like that. And my take was that this was a very serious meeting and that you wanted to hear us talk about what we do, and you wanted us to answer some questions. And I did not want to appear like we were trying to overwhelm you with marketing materials. However, tomorrow at
the open house.
What time is that?
12 to 2.
12 to 2, we're having an open house at our new offices at what Bank Street?
208 Bank Street.
208 Bank Street. There'll be refreshments. And there'll be videos. Yes, we'll have access to our marketing videos. We'll have materials. We'd love to have those of you that can work it into your busy day stop by, take a look, sort of get that kind of positive vibe from us.
Chuck, you, and then we'll go right over to this gentleman.
There's been a lot of discussion about levels, U9, U8, many people aren't aware of those. Oh, by the way, my name's Chuck Betts. Can you tell me how many levels are there and what percentage of your customers fall into those levels?
Finally, a question.
So about 4 years ago, the state of Iowa went from the Iowa Medicaid enterprise overseeing all of these services and outsourced it to what was at the time was Magellan Behavioral Health. And at that time, there were two levels of funding for folks with mental health issues. It was either hourly or what they called daily. So there were two different rate structures. After about 7-8 months into that system, they said this just doesn't make sense because people fall on a gamut. They fall on a spectrum. And so they reinvented the wheel and went from hourly and daily services to everybody gets a daily service at a tier of U4 to U9. So there's those 6 tiers. And they assign some vague hour guidelines for them that are an average. Sometimes they're specific. Other time we don't, we follow. It's kind of vague on that side of it. But it's really about their symptomology and where they're at and where they're functioning and how much support they need at a certain time. So it's from U4 to U9.
So the answer to the question, what percentage of our customers who receive rehabilitation services?
100% of our HAB folks receive a tier.
Right. Yeah. But like.
You must know what percentage are U8 or U9.
Oh shit! I don't know.
That changes.
It changes.
That changes every day.
Go ahead.
I don't know. Roughly 66% of our services are for folks with mental health issues.
Go ahead, Barb.
I'm going to tell you, I can speak for our region, which is Henry Lee, Louisa, and Des Moines County.
Ah, she's the
U8,
expert.
U9, we roughly serve 25 to 30 people out of U8 and U9.
Out of how many total people?
In community services.
And we serve, I want to say, probably
at least 300.
150 community
Really?
customers
Is that
that
it?
are less than like a U4, U5, or U6, which is the low.
But you're talking all of the counties together?
Yes, our whole region. Now, for Keokuk,
Henry Lee.
Is that including HCBS or just HAB?
that's including all of them.
Okay.
This gentleman here has been.
Yeah.
I have some comments to make. My name is Timothy Murray. I live about a half a block away from the Grand Avenue site. I would appreciate it when I'm making my comments and questions that I do not get interrupted, because some people have been doing that. My heart goes out to the parents of disabled people here. I'm disabled myself, but so their stories have really touched my heart tonight, and I appreciate it very much. Optimae is a wonderful organization. I'm very familiar with it. I know some of its employees, and I know some of its clients. Optimae's mission statement is one that wants to empower its clients. I call them clients, not patient themselves and become better people that can be socialized into common society that you and I both enjoy. I have some concerns that are authentic. Number one, I'm very familiar with the house on Grand Avenue. It has a front porch and a back porch. I also know that clients have friends that visit them. Friends aren't allowed into the premises at all, but they are allowed to be outside. So hypothetically, let's do the math. If 5 clients have 3 friends, that's 15 people. Plus the 5 people, that's 20 people outside of the residence. There's 2 porches, a front porch and a back porch of this particular residence. I want to know how is one staff member supposed to monitor the front yard and the backyard and the inside of the house? One staff member, or even 2, because at that point they'd be running around. Because some people are in the house, some people are in the back, some people are in the front. That's my concern. Okay? The element of people that come to visit are not necessarily great. I know there's staff members here. This is no insult to you. You can't control it. The staff members, let me tell you this about the staff members. They do a fantastic job. They're not made a whole lot of money to put up a whole lot of business, okay? And some of these people that I've met and I know about, they know how to dish it out. And these gentlemen and ladies I'll call saints and angels put up with it without complaining ever. They are highly regarded by you. They're highly regulated by the state. They turn in really intense paperwork for the state, highly detailed, and they do it on their own time. These reports, they go home from work and they spend 4 hours sometimes doing paperwork at their own time without being paid. Now you can't ask for better employees than that. I wish they would be paid for that service. That would be a complaint in my department. They should be paid to do paperwork. Okay? But my concern is the visitors, the quality of visitors aren't good, and that amount of people on that property. I hate to say it. This is my church, by the way. I love it, and you should try to attend. It's beautiful. So I have Christian values. I don't judge people. I don't discriminate against anybody. I have deep compassion and sympathy for anyone that's disabled or mentally challenged. But sometimes you have to deal with what's in front of you. And so when I know that there's people of not great content, let me put it that way, what am I supposed to say to my neighbors? How are you going to control that particular site?
Okay, well,
Is it one person?
it's not my personal experience that all 5 residents, 5 friends all show up at the same time. So I guess I would say let's sort of cross that bridge if we come to it. If that becomes an issue, if there are people hanging in the front or backyards, that becomes an issue. You have our cards, you have our contact. I don't think that's going to happen, but if it does, we'll work on solving the problem. Because
what are your actual expectations of residency in that house? Is it 3 or 5, or you don't know yet because it hasn't?
The maximum capacity is 5. I would suspect that most of the time there'll be 5 individuals living there, but there may be times when there are 4.
Yeah, I understand.
Yep.
And then I can speak to the staff. We never have our staff do anything without being paid. So I'm not sure where that is, but when we find out that there's somebody who's been doing something at home, we're calling them saying, we heard that you did this at home, we need you to put it on your timesheet, come in tomorrow and we can talk about
Plus-
what we can do to give you office time for that.
I really don't make statements that I can't back up with facts.
Well, okay, so it would be our, it would,
I have knowledge that someone's doing that.
okay.
Even if it's one person, or there's workers here, I know there's workers here.
We need to start ending this meeting.
Yeah, if we have that knowledge, they'd be paid.
When they said, if this is taking place, how are they supposed to watch these clients and do their paperwork at the same time?
Sure, so it would not.
For the whole experience of their shift.
Okay.
That's my point.
Okay, well, it would be our policy that they not, that they, okay.
If that's your policy, that's your employment policy, that you're to do the paperwork on your own time, so be it.
Not our employment policy.
That's not,
That's why I said,
that's
it's
the exact opposite.
It's not our, okay, if you ask a question, you gotta be quiet long enough for me to answer it. It's not our policy to not only encourage people to do that, to allow people to do that for two reasons. It's illegal two different ways. First of all, it violates the wage and hour laws. Secondly, it's a HIPAA violation because they're taking the record home. So we will take those very seriously, and we will counsel people that you cannot do that, and let us help you find a way to get your work done when you're at work. And so if that happens in this site and we find that out, that's exactly what we'll do.
Absolutely.
Thanks. We need to.
Oh, you're good.
Well, I have immense staying power, but
yeah.
I just.
Bill.
I can't take it anymore. I used to be an Optimae employee. I think it's a fabulous company. I used to work in these site homes. And I actually currently own a home that's a site home. And other than some maintenance issues that we all have, we haven't really had any trouble that we know of.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And apparently there have been some police calls to the home. I was not aware of that, but that's because it apparently wasn't a big deal. And I think also some of the confusion is that, okay, so there's 5 people in this home. There might be some of our staff, one of them may be in the home. Another staff has come to get a person to take them to the grocery store, to take them to the doctor, so they're not all home all the time with one staff. A lot of times they're doing stuff with other staff for their time that they get.
Or they're just going there visiting their friends wherever they are.
Or they're, and so
Or
they're
going
not
to the baseball
running
game
around
or
these
whatever people do.
On staff.
Yeah.
And, anyway, and if anybody, so.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think other people are getting tired than I am, especially the volunteers. And we are sort of covering the same ground a bit. I mean, I think from our perspective, this has been a good dialogue.
Absolutely.
And you've raised some issues that we will be especially careful to deal with. I understand we couldn't answer all your questions. I hope we answered a fair amount of them. And again, we'll leave you with contact information.
For Susan.
For Susan. that
Oh, and Angie.
If issues come up, which they invariably will, that we'll communicate about that proactively with you, and we'll follow up on them.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
She said 208 Main Street.
Bank. I said bank. 208 Bank Street tomorrow.
Bank Street.
Yep.
Thank you all. Sir, thank you so much for your help. Get all the way down there and make lunch.
I recorded most of your beginning thing, so I don't need to refer anything. Actually, I got about an hour and 20 minutes and realized I am on this battery, so I had to let it down. There you go.